I gave 8 years of my life to that company. 8 years of late nights, canceled vacations, and answering emails at my sister's wedding reception because the client comes first. I believed in loyalty. I believed if I worked hard enough, someone would notice. They did, just not the way I expected. It happened on a Tuesday morning in a glass conference room overlooking downtown Chicago, the kind of room where sunlight feels cold and everything smells faintly like burnt coffee and fear. My boss, Dana Whitmore, stood at the head of the table. Perfect blazer, perfect hair, perfect smile that never reached her eyes. She clicked to the next slide. My restructuring plan will increase efficiency by 18, she said smoothly. Then she looked straight at me. And some roles, she continued, are replaceable. My stomach dropped. Everyone knew she meant me. I was senior operations lead. I built the workflow system she was presenting. I trained half the people in that room. But Dana had been promoted 6 months earlier, and ever since, she'd been quietly cutting out anyone who didn't worship her. After the meeting, she called me into her office. No hour, no warning. She folded her hands on the desk. "You're good at what you do," she said, tilting her head like she was giving me a compliment. "But you're not leadership material." I felt heat crawl up my neck. "I've been leading this department for 3 years. Informally, she corrected. "And honestly, anyone could run your system. You documented it so well. Anyone could run it." She smiled again. "We're eliminating your position. 2 weeks severance. You should be grateful." Grateful. I walked out carrying a cardboard box with 8 years of my life inside it. My team avoided eye contact. One of them looked like she wanted to cry. When the elevator doors closed, I finally let myself breathe. I wasn't fired for performance. I was fired because she needed to prove she was powerful. That night, I logged into my personal laptop and opened LinkedIn. And that's when I saw it. Dana had posted about the exciting restructuring initiative that would modernize operations. She tagged the CEO, she tagged the board, and she tagged the workflow system. The system I built. The one she claimed anyone could run. That's when something inside me shifted. She thought I was replaceable. She had no idea what she'd just done. Because there was one tiny detail she didn't know. The system worked flawlessly because of something I never documented. Something only I understood. And without it, it wouldn't just slow down. It would collapse. The first email came 3 days after I left. Not to me, to my former team. I know because one of them, bless her anxious, loyal heart, texted me a screenshot. Subject: urgent. Workflow delays. From Dana Whitmore. The message was short and sharp. Orders weren't processing. Vendor approvals were stuck in pending. The automated reports for the executive team hadn't generated that morning. Dana's closing line? "Please review the documentation." This system was designed to be fully self-sustaining. I almost laughed. Fully self-sustaining. Here's what Dana didn't know. Yes, I documented every workflow. Yes, I built the automation in our internal system. But what made it stable was a manual override sequence. I run every Friday at 4:45 p.m. a quiet little recalibration that corrected back-end conflicts the software vendor refused to fix without a 6-figure upgrade. I'd patched it myself, not because it was in my job description, but because I cared, and because I didn't want my team drowning every Monday morning. Dana eliminated my role on a Tuesday. That Friday, no override. By Monday, the cracks started showing. By Wednesday, there were fractures. A week later, my phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. "Hi, this is Dana." Her voice was tighter than usual, less polished. "We're experiencing some unexpected system instability. Proud of how our leadership team navigates challenges with resilience." The comments were brutal. Employees complaining about delayed reimbursements. A vendor hinting at contract violations. One client asking publicly why their $2.4 million shipment hadn't been processed. Because the system was choking. And Dana didn't know where the air valve was. That afternoon, I got a second call, this time from "We'd like to explore a short-term consulting arrangement." The rep said carefully, "Just until operations stabilize." Consulting. The word felt good. I opened my laptop and pulled up my termination letter. 2 weeks severance. 8 years reduced to 14 days of pay. "I'd be happy to consult," I said evenly. "My rate is $250 an hour. 4-hour minimum per session. Payment upfront." Silence. That's significantly higher than your previous hourly equivalent. Yes, I replied calmly, but apparently I'm replaceable, so you shouldn't need me. Another pause. I'll run that up the chain. An hour later, Dana called again. Her voice had changed. No sweetness, no fake mentorship tone, just strain. We're losing hundreds of thousands per day, she said. Are you really going to exploit this? Exploit. I stared at my ceiling. You eliminated my position to prove a point, I said quietly. I'm just responding to the market demand. She didn't respond. But 2 hours later, the contract hit my inbox. Signed. Payment processed. I smiled for the first time since that Tuesday morning in Chicago. She thought anyone could run my system. Now she was about to learn the difference between documented and understood. By the time I stepped out of that conference room, the tension in the hallway felt electric. People were watching, not openly. Corporate America teaches you to pretend nothing's happening. But eyes followed me. Whispers started the second I passed. I didn't head for the elevator. I stopped by my old team's cluster instead. You okay? Kevin asked quietly. I nodded. System's stable. For now. For now? He repeated. It needs structural changes, I said. The kind that require authority, not band-aids. He swallowed. She told leadership it was plug and play. Of course she did. That afternoon, I got an email from the CFO requesting a brief knowledge transfer overview. Not from Dana. From him directly. Interesting. The meeting was scheduled for Friday. Dana was CC'd. Friday came fast. This time, it wasn't the glass conference room overlooking Chicago. It was the executive boardroom. Longer table, colder air, bigger stakes. The CEO sat at the end, calm, observing. Dana presented first. Temporary instability due to transitional restructuring, she said smoothly. Now resolved with consultant support. Consultant support. I waited. Then the CFO nodded toward me. Walk us through what happened. So I did. No drama. No emotion. I explained the vendor flaw, the manual recalibration, the risks of long-term data corruption. I projected the cost comparison between my proposed architecture redesign and the premium vendor upgrade Dana declined last year. That's when I pulled it up. The email, her denial, dated 11 months ago. The room went quiet. Dana shifted in her chair. At the time, it wasn't financially justified. The CFO raised an eyebrow. Compared to what we've lost this month. Silence. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just closed my laptop. The system works, I said evenly, but it requires leadership that understands it. Not louder, not aggressive, just true. And in that moment, I realized something important. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about visibility. For 8 years, I built value quietly. Dana built power loudly. Now the numbers were speaking. And numbers don't care about titles. As the meeting adjourned, the CEO stopped me near the door. Are you open to long-term discussions? He asked. Behind him, Dana stood frozen. I met his eyes. Yes, I said calmly. At the right level. The call came Monday morning. Not from Dana, from the CEO's assistant. They'd like you in at 2:00 p.m. executive floor. Executive floor. In 8 years, I'd never been invited up there unless it was a holiday photo op. This time, it wasn't for a photo. When I walked into the boardroom, the CEO and CFO were already seated. Dana was there too, stiff-backed, hands folded so tightly her knuckles were pale. The CEO didn't waste time. We've reviewed the operational losses, he began. We've also reviewed internal communications regarding the vendor upgrade. Dana shifted slightly. He continued. Your system is the backbone of 3 revenue streams. We underestimated its dependency on your oversight. Underestimated. Corporate speak for we messed up. The CFO slid a folder across the table toward me. Inside was an offer letter. Director of Operational Strategy. Salary increase. Performance bonus. Budget authority. Direct reporting line to the CFO. Not Dana. Dana would now be parallel to me. Not above. I kept my expression neutral, but my pulse was pounding. And Dana? I asked evenly. The CEO glanced at her. She'll remain in her role, but workflow oversight will transition to you. Transition. Another corporate word. Translation? Her power over my department was gone. Dana finally spoke. This creates confusion in the leadership hierarchy. The CFO responded calmly. What created confusion was eliminating critical infrastructure without understanding it. Silence swallowed the room. I closed the folder slowly. I have one condition, I said. All eyes lifted. My team receives retention bonuses. They carried the fallout of decisions they didn't make. Kevin, Lisa, the others who stayed late fixing problems they didn't cause. The CEO nodded almost immediately. Approved. Dana's jaw tightened again. I signed. Just like that. I went from replaceable to strategic leadership in under 30 days. But the real moment? It wasn't the title. It wasn't the raise. It was walking past Dana's glass office. Later that afternoon, while facilities removed her restructuring initiative poster from the wall, she looked up as I passed. No smile. No apology. Just realization. Power built on ego is fragile. Power built on value? That's leverage. And I hadn't destroyed her. I'd simply stepped out of her shadow. Turns out, I was never replaceable. I was just underestimated. 6 months later, the numbers told the whole story. Operational errors? Down 92%. Vendor penalties? Eliminated. Processing time? Faster than it had ever been. The architecture redesign I implemented didn't just stabilize the system, it future-proofed it. We never needed that overpriced vendor upgrade. We just needed someone who actually understood how the machine worked. And for the first time in 8 years, I wasn't fixing things quietly in the background. I was leading openly. My team got their retention bonuses. Kevin was promoted. Lisa started running analytics meetings like she'd been born for it. The late-night panic messages disappeared. Fridays became normal again. As for Dana, she lasted 3 more months. Technically, she transitioned to pursue other opportunities. That's what the internal email said. But the truth was simpler. Once the executive team saw where the real value came from, her leadership style didn't hold up under scrutiny. Restructuring is easy when you're cutting people. It's harder when you have to build something better. The day her office was cleared out, I didn't celebrate. I didn't need to, because this was never about destroying her career. It was about reclaiming mine. One afternoon, the CEO stopped by my office. Not summoned, not scheduled, just stopped by. You handled this professionally, he said. Most people would have burned the place down. I smiled slightly. I considered it. He laughed. But I built this system. I continued. Why would I destroy something I created? And that was the difference. Revenge isn't always loud. It isn't screaming in meetings or sending dramatic emails. Sometimes it's leverage. Sometimes it's patience. Sometimes it's letting someone underestimate you, and then calmly charging consulting rates when they realize their mistake. The best part? Dana still has me on LinkedIn. I know because last week, she viewed my profile. My new title sits right at the top. Director of Operational Strategy. Same building, same city, different level. She once told me anyone could run my system. She was right. Anyone can push buttons. But not everyone understands what happens underneath. And in corporate America, that difference? That's everything.